Welcome back to the Producer Podcast. I'm your host, Micah Versman, and today we're looking to dress to impress as I'm joined by Terri Middleton to talk about the world of wardrobe and how the producer can assist in helping everyone look their best on set. So without further ado, let's get started. Thank you, Terri, for coming on to the Producer Podcast today.
Happy to be here.
Yeah. So I know I've worked with a number of people that have been on set with you or worked with you before, but I haven't had a chance to work with you before. So maybe just start by sharing a little bit of your story and what drew you to doing wardrobe in the film industry.
Well, I started out, I moved out, I studied and went to college at University of Idaho. And then I came out here and started right away, but I also held regular jobs. Like I worked at a tuxedo company and I worked at Bloomingdale's opening their studio services to make contacts.
Hmm.
Um, but I felt like my start was basically in secular, which I think that was where I got all of my training. And I hope to bring that type of thing into faith-based.
Yeah.
And after doing secular, I had decided that I really wanted to be careful of what projects I took and what I was representing. And when I made that decision, I started doing shows like The Goldbergs. I wanted to do things that I could watch with my family and
Right.
that didn't go against my belief system. And I believe there was really a shift in my career when I made those decisions. And I then was able to work with the Skit Guys on Family Camp and also to work with the Kendricks. And one of my favorite parts in that walk was when Steven said, "We want to offer you this job, but we want you to pray about it and let me know." And I was like, "Oh no, I've already prayed. My mom has prayed. I'm in." So that's kind of what got me on my walk and back into faith-based and focused on that.
Nice. I'd be curious to hear because I know you mentioned, you worked like at a tuxedo place, and some of those as well for when you were first getting started. Like, did you find that helpful enough that like that'd be something you'd recommend to others getting started in wardrobe? Like if film isn't completely sustainable yet, hey, this is worth doing until that time.
Well, I try to always do stuff with purpose. And
Hmm.
when I worked at the tuxedo company, they handled different contracts with TV shows when they wanted to rent tuxedos.
Okay.
So I still felt like I would be next to the industry, working
Hmm.
towards getting to know the right people. And then with Bloomingdale's, I did their studio services, which that is the department that handles all the TV and film and also like commercials. So again, I was rubbing elbows and getting to know the right people. But I would encourage people to try to find a parallel job that might be in the direction they want to go,
Hmm.
like possibly like theater jobs or just something relatable. But I think with me, that just always helped me keep my eye on the prize, sort of.
Right. Because obviously for me, I'm a film producer, so everything that so I'm always when I'm talking to whatever department, I'm always trying to learn more from like my perspective. So I guess one of the first things that comes to mind with me is like budgeting and how the different departments are going to affect the budget and stuff. So when I'm doing maybe like say that initial budget breakdown, what are things that you would recommend? Oh, I should be noting related to wardrobe so that I can be taking that into account building a budget.
Well, one of the things that I think is really important, especially even with lower budget, is to take into account, like if you want to do multiple projects, you're
Hmm.
not going to be a one-hit wonder. So you want to build amazing teams. I
Right.
would say that keep in mind if you hire people with experience to be your keys, they're going to train all the people under them, which means you're going to build stronger teams. Because
Hmm.
sometimes I think we have a tendency to be very like family when we hire. And I
Yeah.
think that if you want to build strong teams, spend the money getting good keys that are experienced, because then you're going to move forward. They're going to train everybody under them, and that's to your advantage. And then proper prep is really important in all departments. But speaking for costumes, everything we do in prep means filming will be easier. Everything we have a chance to get organized and do, it's just going to make it easier, which is going to save you money, which is going to save you time. I think that creative meetings between the director, the costume designer, makeup and hair, art department, and even with the DP, if we can get on the same page early on, know what's important, then we're going to have less glitches and things
Hmm.
will be thought through. And sometimes I feel like those meetings happen 2 days before the production meeting. And sometimes I've even had where like makeup and hair haven't even had a chance to read the script. So we're in the meeting and they're not quite caught up.
Right.
So that is really important with prep. And then casting, I know that that happens really last minute sometimes. But again, if the earlier you can bring your actors in or get that information to departments, the better we're going to be, the more that we can accomplish. And so all those things during prep, and then also space. We have to think about space during prep.
Hmm.
So where the clothes are going, and to have proper equipment to get started. And then like trailers are really important, because if people have to unpack and repack and unpack and repack, it's time consuming, and it can be scary because you're trying to keep track of earrings and ties and all the little pieces every time you move.
Right.
So those are physical things that are important. And then, yeah, just having the right amount of crew,
Hmm.
because if you want to budget so you have enough people to be on set, to be shopping, to be doing fittings. And also, when a lot of times shows have such a small wrap that you need to have enough people that they can be doing returns as you go. If you want to keep
Right.
the budget down, you need to be able to make that happen.
Those are all good points. Especially like the returns aspect. I feel like that's almost always the first thing that people kind of forget about when they're planning out their film. I want to jump back to where you kind of talking about being brought on in time so that you can read the script and you can have those meetings and stuff. So like obviously every film project is different, but it like is there an ideal like generally you would recommend, oh, you should be your at least wardrobe head should be coming on at least this far out from when you start
It
photography.
it depends on if it's contemporary or a period movie.
Okay.
But I mean, basic concept would be usually you need at least 3 weeks. So if it's 3 weeks of prep for 5 weeks of filming, is a basic kind of concept. And your first week is just really getting all the scripts, all the breakdowns, all that logistic kind of stuff together. And
Hmm.
then, yeah, I would say 3 weeks, because then you can start digging in, making sure you're having all your meetings. You need to make sure that you're on the same page as the producers and the directors so you can really run. Because I have been in this situation where I love prep and I love to do my boards and I love to do research ahead of time. And
Right.
then I landed, and the director had all these concepts that I had not had the information yet. So it's really good to have that time together, and to make sure everybody's on the same page so you can travel at a good speed.
That's good to know. Because yeah, I have definitely seen that not happen before, and definitely did not help people's stress level on those sets. You mentioned also building out the wardrobe team and that. And I guess I'd be kind of curious, because again, I don't know a whole lot about wardrobe. Like, what is a normal wardrobe team, comprised of, and how do all those people work together?
The basic setup, and it all depends on budgets, because I have worked on crews as small as three. I don't think it
Okay.
should ever be smaller than three
Yeah.
if you can help it. And I've worked on crews that are as big as 21 people just in my department.
Oh, wow.
Um, so the basic is you have your costume designer, and then you have a supervisor, which is kind of the business person of the department. They
Okay.
usually have a big part in hiring the crew, doing the breakdowns, doing the budgets, the business part of it,
Hmm.
and the negotiating and making sure we have everything we need, and all those things. And then under that person, we usually have a key costumer. This person is very much the middleman on getting everything done, from the design aspect over to physically getting it in the line, getting it marked. This person usually like sets the room, wraps the room. And then if you have a big enough crew, there's also a shopper. But if not, the key and the shopper can kind of cross over,
Okay.
or he could be a shopper during prep and then become just a costumer once you're filming.
Hmm.
But it's also crucial to kind of have that person, because so many times on faith-based films, we're doing fittings day of. You're fitting that person, they're going to set. So we need to have enough moving parts that we can make that happen. And anytime that you can do a fitting the day before is ideal, because that gives us time to correct mistakes, to get a different size, to go a different direction if need be. So the
Hmm.
key person is that middle person. And then under that, you have two set people, usually, depending on how many principals. And the set people, it's great to have two, because sometimes you can have a men's and a women's, or you have someone that's able to run back and forth and help set rooms and break rooms. And you guys can they can take care of each other.
Right.
So that's like the basic bare bones. Then a typical rule is if you have more than 20 background actors,
Hmm.
extras, that you would have someone assigned to them. Now,
Okay.
in faith-based films, we usually stretch that quite a bit, but it is nice to have an additional background costumer anytime you're doing really big scenes. And
Hmm.
I've done movies where you're doing thousands in like a concert scene, and you just need that extra help making sure that no one's standing in front with a big Nike on their shirt,
Yeah.
and just help that way. And we had a really great team for that on family camp, and so it ran very, very smoothly. And when you're trying to get a bunch of different days in one day, it's just that extra person's crucial.
Hmm.
um, and then usually we have a PA. it's great for the team to have a PA because that's the person that you're like, I need you to do a target run. Okay, I've got all this put together. I need you to do returns today. So it's that
Okay.
person that can just run and run and run, but they're not on set. If you're doing a period movie, and sometimes for regular movies, the additional people you would need is a tailor or a
Hmm.
stitcher. Um, Depending on how heavy it is of a show that you would need to make things, you can sometimes do that just part-time. They can just come in. They might be able to come in during prep. So that's another additional person.
Okay.
And if it's a big enough set of principals, like you have quite a few, over 20, then sometimes we also have an assistant costume designer. And they usually take on taking care of more of the day player roles.
Hmm. I guess one thing when you brought up extras in that came to mind is I know a lot of times, especially on like the some of the faith-based stuff that I've been doing, when it's been extras, it's very much been they're wearing their own clothes. Production doesn't have the budget to, be buying all the clothes for the extras and that. So like if producers are going kind of that route, what things should they keep in mind that, hey, these might be issues that come up?
What's really important, if it's available, is to get these background players, their names, their emails, and do it as professional as possible. Because if
Mhm.
my team has a chance, we can email them and send them the boards. Okay, we're going to be in the park and we need that. Make sure that nobody's wearing red and nobody's wearing white, and we can't do so. If we can do that email informing them what not to bring, and
Hmm.
then depending on how many changes we're using them for, I usually have them bring three choices
Okay.
for each change, because that way you don't get in a bind quite as much and you have a little more wiggle room,
Yeah.
which worked great on family camp. And we had a couple people handling that, so everyone does get seen and things don't slip through.
Hmm.
And it's easier to do on contemporary. When you start doing
Right.
period type movies, there are ways to um, kind of cheat things, but you need to be really super aware. Like if you change everybody's tops, but their shoes are totally contemporary, they need to be layered that way. We need to make sure we're not seeing their feet. Are they walking? Just to be. That's why if you have the customer that's in charge of the background, they're paying attention to that. But I still have my
Hmm.
set people paying attention to the principles.
I also know, especially in the faith-based and beginning filmmaking stages, a lot of times you're even doing that with like the principal cast as well. Um, and I guess I'd be curious just to hear kind of your thoughts on that of like, is that an okay practice, or are you kind of like, no, you should, if especially for principal, just budget to buy the wardrobe for the production?
It's interesting because when I really got back into faith-based films, it was during COVID. So
Okay.
I had to do a lot of virtual fittings and I was definitely using a lot of actors' clothes. I think
Hmm.
there's room for it. But one of the great things I get to do as a costume designer is create this character with the person. And yes, budget wise, I can do that and I can make that happen and I can use their pieces. But if we want the actor to start identifying with the character, then sometimes it's good to separate them from their own clothes.
Okay.
So on that level, it's good to shop their character.
Hmm.
But I definitely think there's room if it's contemporary, like, oh, these jeans fit you good, and we can totally use those and then place it with these character things. So I think you can blend it. And
Okay.
I have on all my movies, my faith-based movies, tried to use people's closets. But like when you're doing a lot of movies with younger people, sometimes it's also kind of difficult because they want to take their clothes with them, and then We've all had that happen where they're like, oh, that was today. My shoes are at home. My pants are at home. Oh, they're dirty. So
Hmm.
it brings its own challenges, but I've always been able to kind of blend the two and stay within the budget.
No, I've never thought about it from the aspect of like trying to separate the actor from themselves and get them more in the mindset of their character. But that's the unique but helpful way of like of thinking about it, and a way that can also help the actor perform better. You've talked a little bit about like period wardrobe and that. One question that comes to mind is I think a lot of people, realize, especially if it's, you're doing a film set in the 1800s, like there is a lot of either recreating, building from scratch the costumes or rental houses. But is that, I guess, workload similar if you're doing some type of like futuristic film and stuff, or is like or does kind of the way wardrobe works change based on genre or time period and stuff like that?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I have been fortunate enough to have done uh, a short that was during Jesus's time. And I've
Okay.
gone all the way to doing a post-apocalyptic show. And I also did a show called Futurescape. So with period movies, you need number one, you need time for research. You really need to dig in
Hmm.
and know what is accurate and what dyes did they have at the time and when did a zipper come in and when was corduroy real so you can be accurate. So there's all that for period. And then rental houses are amazing, but you need time and you need multiple rental houses in order to get things covered.
Hmm.
However, with the futuristic show that I did, it was amazing. Again, we did research on what we did was like runway stuff and
Okay.
all this over the top and then applied that to regular clothes. I call it adding bells and whistles.
Hmm.
And that's pretty much what it was because the director wanted to go away from color. So we were doing a lot of gray, a little bit of white, a lot of black, and then just adding all these really unique different buttons and zippers and different ways of looking, making them look. Also takes a lot of time and research. The easiest is contemporary because if you can shop it, you can shop it. And malls are open from like 9 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock at night.
Right.
Rental houses are open maybe 8 to 6, 8 to 5. So you are physically limited on how many hours they're open, and they're not open on weekends.
Hmm.
Rental houses are absolutely amazing. I would tell anyone to take a tour, especially Western costume in Los Angeles. It is like walking through a museum you can touch.
Okay. God, no, that'd be cool. I know one project I've been on worked with them for a lot of their costumes, and it all looked amazing on set. So that'd be fun to come out and see sometime.
Absolutely. It's all done by year and era, so it's a great study.
Hmm. I bet. You talked about earlier how, especially sometimes it's easy to kind of want to bring on the people you that kind of like maybe feel like family, that family effect in the film industry, as
Yes.
opposed to like somebody who has the knowledge and skill to really take your film to the next level. And so I guess kind of branching off of, of that concept, because I know even myself, I'm guilty of that at times. Have you seen like, are there either common misunderstandings or mistakes that maybe producers make when working with the wardrobe team because they're not usually working with those people that have the skill and knowledge like they should on projects.
Well, one of the things that has happened to me personally is um, a lot of times you end up hiring people that are available because, like, if you're filming in a certain state, you need to hire people that are there. And
Hmm.
so I end up hiring people that are local, and I want to pour into them and teach them everything and get them all trained up. And then at the end of the film, they're like, yeah, well, I do makeup or I'm an actor. So it's like you pour into these people and you train them, and then they're not building the team. They're not going with you to the next thing. I guess, I don't know. I think it's important for the keys to have a lot of input in that direction
Hmm.
because I think it's beneficial. And the more confidence the director has in the person that the producers, directors, everyone above, they have in the person they've hired, the more that's going to release them.
Right.
I have the right person in the right place. Because if not, I think so many times the producers are wearing like five hats,
Hmm.
and then they're putting so much pressure on themselves to know what every department needs instead of getting the right person in there that's going to take care of that for you and let you know. And I always tell producers in the beginning when they don't know me, I'm like, you will get to know me and you will know I will never ask you for something I do not need.
That makes a lot of sense. And especially in the faith-based realm, producers are always wearing probably way too many hats. Just kind of going off of how you're talking there about how, you're never going to ask, for something you don't need. I guess like on the flip side of that, what are ways that producers can be making sure like you have what you need and all that, but at the same time in a way that like they're not going to come across as like trying to micromanage you or get annoying with like always asking or pestering you about stuff.
Um, I don't actually mind all of that, but I think the key is to ask.
Okay.
Instead of trying to figure out what I need and getting me things that are not my top priority need, is to have those conversations. Like, for instance, um, my department, if we're not sending stuff out to dry cleaning or we're not doing it that way, then we need access to a washer and a dryer. And this needs to be thought out. Um, Preferably, it would be great to have a washer and dryer at work, but I usually end up having, like, I'll stay in an Airbnb where I have a washer and a dryer,
Okay.
which I totally don't mind doing that. And I know that so many times it comes along with the job, but we also need to take into account if we're working 12, 14-hour days that my department's not done. We're going to
Hmm.
go home and we're going to do laundry. So at least to have those things available and to talk through what would really be easiest. It was so unique on family camp. They were like, what were your needs? What are your needs? And I told them about laundry, and they actually hired a couple PAs to come in and do laundry. And it was amazing because they came in at the end of the day and did a couple hours of laundry, and that was their job. And it just really took a lot of pressure off of my own department.
Right.
And like, it's so funny because in costumes, like, we next to never can like go out to dinner because we're not
Hmm.
done.
I usually don't think about the laundry aspect and what that all entails unless it's like, something really bad has happened and, you know, some key piece of wardrobe got something spilled on really bad. Then it's coming to mind. But yeah, that was cool too that the producers figured out how to that they could bring those people in to help.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing because we were filming outside during summer every day, all day. So, I mean, just people being hot,
Yeah.
their clothes need washed.
Hmm. You kind of mentioned, obviously bringing up the laundry and how that's always something that goes like uh past, rap quite a bit. Like, I don't know, I'm just curious, like what would you say is like an average day length for wardrobe? Because I feel like it is a department that people don't always remember that. Oh yeah, they don't just get to go home right after wrap.
Well, we're usually first in and we're usually last out, and then we have laundry to do after that.
Hmm.
So if crew call is basic, like is
Yep.
8:30 and we work till 8:30, then we're usually coming in at like 7, 7:30, depending on the show, to get everything going. And then it usually takes 45 minutes to an hour, depending on how big the show is, to wrap out. And then we have to travel and then do laundry. So laundry is usually like about a good hour, maybe hour and a half. And that's if you're doing one load. If you're doing multiple loads, it's a little bit more. So if we deduct the drive time, I mean, you can have like a 14, 15-hour day. And a lot of times what I'll do is do throw the laundry in, do the first load, and get the second load because I try not to do more than two. Then I'll put the second load into the washer and put it in the dryer while I'm getting ready in the morning.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's a lot of laundry talk. But so we usually just try to like get and put a half an hour here, half an hour there to try to make those things work.
Yeah. No,
But it does extend our day.
that's quite the day.
You do need to love what you do
Yes.
because it's not it's not for the people that are like, I wonder. No, you really need to love what you do and know why you're
Hmm.
there and have purpose because we work really long hours.
Yes. Um, I'm just curious, while back had a art director um on for an episode. One of the things they talked about was, how art department isn't like camera who can take, the full 2 days of like their weekend off. A lot of times there's art stuff they have to do on their weekend anyway to be ready for the next week. Is wardrobe similar to that in your experience?
100%. So a lot of times, all those returns that didn't happen, you'll catch someone in my team or myself out on a Saturday trying to get stuff returned, trying to do exchanges to get other sizes. And one thing that happens is because they fly the actors in so close to filming, I end
Okay.
up doing fittings on Sunday. And I'm willing to do that, or Saturday,
Hmm.
depending on how it lands. But I'm willing to do that because I still want to do things at the most professional level possible. And
Right.
any minute I get with that actor before so we can make good decisions, I'll do it. But yes, things like that. And also, we'll determine like, is this outfit needed the next day or the next day or this or that? And then we do usually a big amount of laundry on Saturday
Okay.
if we can. So yes, it definitely runs over into the weekends for sure.
Yeah. No. That's good to know. Um, One question I had, and I know I was guilty of this when I was, first getting started, and everything is like super low budget and you're just trying to make it work. But I've seen a lot and I've done it myself where one of the ways early on people are trying to save money is they're combining the wardrobe and the HMU departments together. Um, and anybody who's been in film long enough knows that's not a good thing. But I guess my question would be for those like beginning filmmakers who are at that point where it seems like that's what they need to do. Like, what would you advise in terms of like, okay, but if you're trying to, if that's, this is when you really need to like start making sure those departments are separate and running it more professionally.
Well, number one, I think it's better to compare wardrobe and costumes to art departments. For every one person they have, I need someone.
Okay.
Because with makeup and hair, it's they get them ready and they're done. They
Hmm.
go to set, they do the upkeep. But we have shopping, we have fittings, we have all these returns right there. You already need a bigger team because
Hmm.
there's so much more ongoing. So that right there, I always want people to be clear that like we're closer to an art department,
Okay.
the production designer, an art director, a prop person, all those people, we need one person for every person they have. But when it comes to combining makeup and hair, there are people that have both skills. But what
Hmm.
I think you're sacrificing is people, they can't quite do it with excellence, I feel like, because they cannot focus. Like a wardrobe person is not going to have the same kit for makeup as a makeup person
Right.
or a hair person. So I think that a lot of details are going to be sacrificed when you combine the two.
Hmm.
But I have seen faith-based film grow so much, so much, so much since when I started my career.
Hmm.
And we want our movies to be the same quality as anything the world has to offer. And too many times when we cut corners, it shows.
Yes.
It shows. I can watch early faith-based films and tell you when they didn't have a costume designer or it was someone's cousin. And um, people doing makeup that aren't trained in makeup, are they going to know things about lighting and shadows and how to do bruises and to do special effects at a level that is believable? And I don't think you should sacrifice the quality of your movie if you think it's important enough to be making it.
That's a really good point. Um, that would be fun to watch a early faith-based film with you and hear your commentary on it, I think.
Well,
Um,
a real telltale sign in a lot of those is their uniforms
hmm.
because they're usually ill-fitting
Okay.
and like the patches and name badges, they're not always in the right place. And another one that's really funny to me is like when they don't put black socks on people and they sit down and you can see the white. Just
Uh-huh.
the little things that someone that's trained to look for those things, they catch or they don't even let happen.
Yep. I can already picture a few films where it's like, oh yeah,
Well,
I
and
remember seeing
people,
that.
yeah, people that don't quite understand continuity,
Hmm. Continuity
especially
is a
with,
big one.
yeah, with newer producers and newer directors that are kind of finding their way as well. If you have people under you that are thinking of all those things, then it's just helpful.
Hmm. Yep, I can relate. I try, don't always succeed, but I try to have people that know to think of that stuff because I know I won't. I have like a few wrap-up questions that
Okay.
I'm gonna start transitioning to, and so the first one, and this could be specific to wardrobe, but it doesn't have to be. This could just be something that you have observed on sets before. What's one piece of advice that you would give to producers about how to run a good film set?
Well, one thing that I really have appreciated is the devotional time. I
Okay.
think that's really, really important. And when it comes to my department and hair and makeup, to make sure that those departments have time and are able to go, because sometimes
Mm-hmm.
there's so much pressure in the morning to get things done and to get things ready. But I think that that's an important thing not to miss.
Yeah.
And then kind of a little bit more in general, on family camp, we had a chaplain, and
Okay.
on the Kendricks movies, we have prayer warriors that are on set.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just think to have those people around that can, that's so important. I think it makes all the difference because the producers and directors, they need to have their mind in the moment and in the movie, but just having those people that pray and pray with people and make sure that our day is focused in the right way, that has made all the difference. I think that the more people feel like you see them and they matter, changes everything. And I really, really felt that on family camp. They were lead actors. And I was coming from, there were actors, but producers, kind of all hats. I was
Mm-hmm.
coming from secular where I kind of distanced myself from actors because I need to have that space in between. And that's not really my world.
Right.
But it was to do faith based, it's great that you are seen and heard and appreciated and kind words are spoken and encouragement. I love that also with the Kendricks and their boot camp and all those things. I think that, I mean, putting God first is what makes a set run smooth.
That's all good. Especially I liked you bringing up just like making sure your department has time to make it to those devotionals because I know I've been in that position too where some departments I've been in, it's just like I want to go, but it's the morning and there's so much that has to happen that, I just wasn't able to make it, that day or whatever. And it definitely I could definitely always tell the difference between the
It
days that
sets,
I made it and the days I didn't. So then my final question, one of the biggest challenges with filmmaking is that you're constantly, traveling to different countries, different states, wherever for periods of time to work on set. But when you're not on set, when you're at your home base or whatever, like what have you learned or what advice would you give about how to like build community there so that you still have that support structure when you're not gone?
well, I'm based in Redondo Beach outside of LA. And
Okay.
so I work a lot in secular and it's very, very different world. And I always try to be a light in that situation,
Hmm.
but it definitely can wear you down. So I think it's so important to be in a church community and to have like-minded people around you and praying for you. Um, I have done in the last few years, I've only done one faith-based film here, but I build community with people that are outside of the industry but are like-minded. And that's like going to church and
Hmm.
having different groups of friends that are there for me outside of the industry.
Right. Kind of just piggybacking on that real quick, like what are things that you do maybe to help keep those relationships that you have built outside of the industry strong when you are gone than say for 6 to 8 weeks somewhere on a feature?
I'm still working on that balance. I tend to, I'm quiet. I'm very consumed when I'm working and
Hmm.
I give it my all. So more so I tell people, hi, I'm kind of signing off for 8 weeks. And what is interesting in that kind of thing is through working with the Kendricks and like Spotlight, those different movies, I
Hmm.
my close friends tend to be spread out all over the place in
Okay.
all the different states. And I'm better at staying in touch with them because those are friendships I built.
Right.
And we do a lot of texting and calling. And I take them with me probably a little better than I do the people that live where I live.
Hmm. Yeah. No, I can relate to that. I have quite a few of those friends that, yeah, I probably talk to them more than I do the friends that I see, weekly at church or whatever, at home because we've just have done so much stuff together and been through so many difficult challenges that you just want to keep talking with them and building those relationships. Those were the questions I had today. And I know definitely I learned a lot that I can hopefully apply uh, going forward and working with wardrobe departments on upcoming projects of mine. So thank you again, Terri, for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
And with that, we're going to wrap up this episode of the Producer Podcast. Until next time, make sure to subscribe to the Producer Podcast and follow us on social media. Also, don't forget to pick up your copy of the new book by show host Micah Versman, The Producer's Life, A Guide to Practical Film Producing, on sale now. Until next time, thanks for listening.